First thing we need to do with the unit still off is open up the chamber, check that there's nothing left in here, and load our sample. So we're just gonna open up this latch at the bottom of the door. It's not under vacuum, so the door should just open. We'll check inside the chamber, make sure there's nothing in there, which there's not, and then we'll be able to load our sample in here. We don't want to touch anything with our bare hands to minimize contamination from oils, so you would use tweezers to load. Position it somewhere in the middle. That's where you're going to get the most uniform etch. After you've loaded your sample, you want to visually inspect this entire O-ring. This is the highest likelihood of failure of pump down when you start to pump the vacuum. And so you're just checking to see if there's any indentations, any creases, any dirt, or other contaminants that might prevent making a seal once it seals against this steel plate. And so again, make sure you have a gloved hand. If you see some dust, you can come in here and wipe it off. If there's some larger debris, you can come in with isopropanol and Kim wipe. Just make sure it's fully dry before you close the chamber. So once you've done your visual inspection, you've loaded up your sample, go ahead and seal the door and make sure the latch is completely pushed to the right. All right, next thing we need to do is open up the gas tank. So this unit is capable of generating plasma from argon, oxygen, nitrogen, or air. And right now we have, you can see, oxygen and argon tanks. I have these labeled with a piece of tape. If that's not there, the tank themselves also have a label. They're just rotated behind, so you can always figure out what's what. And we'll just demonstrate argon for the day, but you can do mixed gases if you'd like, in which case you'd need both of them open. So the first thing we'll need to do is open up the main valve. So just lefty-loosey. You'll open up this a couple turns, but not all the way. And you can see that we have plenty of gas. That's the gauge on the right, tells us how much is in the tank. We need roughly 500 or more. If you're less than 500, I would swap it out before you start your run. And then we're going to check what the line pressure is here using the regulator gauge. We want this to be, there's a small mark here, we want it to be roughly 15 to 20 psi. We can adjust that with this regulator valve. So right turns the needle to the right, increases the line pressure, left decreases it, and we're in a pretty good range here, so we're going to leave it. And the last thing we need to do is make sure the inline valve is open, so that allows the gas to flow through the black line and into the rear of the unit. All right, next thing we need to do is just make sure that the vacuum pump is switched to on. So the vacuum pump is actually powered directly from the plasma etcher, so you're not going to actually have to turn it on. You just need to make sure that this switch, which is a little difficult to see, but is over here, this silver rocker switch here, it's pushed forward into the on state, and there's a label you can read. It's difficult to see. This is off on this direction, on in the forward direction. So this is in the correct state as is. Next, we need to power the unit on. So you'll go around to the right side of the unit, roughly halfway up. You can feel it with your hand right here. It's hard to see with the camera. But there's just a little light switch, a rocker switch. You're just going to rock it into the up position. And then we can come over here and we'll see the display turn on. All right, now we just need to program it for our specific experiment. The menu is pretty straightforward. So to get into the setup menu, we just press this enter button or this arrow, and that gives us either the commands menu, and I can go to the right, or the setup menu. And if you see, if I keep going to the right, it just comes back to commands. So this is the top of the menu tree. So I have setup and commands. I'm gonna go to setup first and then press enter. And that's gonna give me the time. This is probably the most modified parameter, how long you want the plasma to run for your sample. So right now it's set to 5. If I wanted to edit that, it's already in an edit mode. I can go in here and program in whatever duration I want and then choose enter to set that. I can move over or press enter and now move over, and now it's going to go to the vacuum set point. This is the pressure that I want the plasma to initiate at. Typically it's set to 200 or 201, so we'll just leave this as default. I'll press enter to lock that in and press over. Atmospheric vent is the duration in seconds. that the chamber will vent after the plasma duration is ended. 15 seconds is default, and that's fine, so I'll just lock that in, probably pressing enter and over. Purge vent is how long between the pump down and the initiation of the gas that gets entered into the system. We'll leave that at 10 seconds. Enter, over. Gas stabilize is 45 seconds right now. So we're going to manually bleed in either our oxygen or argon, depending on the plasma, at a particular flow rate once it tells us it's ready for us to do that, once the vacuum has been achieved. 45 seconds is how long we get to fuss with that and lock in our flow rate of the gas before it will automatically turn the plasma on. So 30 seconds to 45 is the typical range. If you feel like you need longer, you can always set that to 60 seconds. Press enter and move over. Vacuum alarm. After 45 seconds of pumping, if it doesn't reach the set point, this will trigger the alarm. You can leave this as default. Enter and over. Auto cycle off, we can leave that as off. Plasma time, we're back to the the initial menu command. So we've set all of our setup parameters, so I'm just going to press enter to lock this in. Instead of pressing left or right, I'm going to go back up to the original menu. I'm in setup now, and I'm going to go over to commands. I'll press enter on commands, and now we're about ready to trigger our plasma. So once I press enter here, it's going to trigger the pump of the vacuum. You'll hear the vacuum kick on, and you'll see a live pressure reading, and it's going to start dropping until it tries to hit that set point of 200. It has 45 seconds to do that. If it does within that 45 seconds, it'll trigger a new command that says gas stabilize. That's your cue to start bleeding in the gas of your choice, depending on which tank or tanks you have open. Once that clock counts down, then it will trigger the plasma. So let's go through that operation. We'll go ahead and press enter, and you can see and hear the pump, and here's the set point that it's shooting for, and here is the live reading of the vacuum. You can see that going down. All right, and so now you see the gas stabilize. Typically anywhere from 10 to 30 is a reasonable range. The higher the flow, the more gas you have in your plasma, the more etching will occur. So this is a parameter or variable that you get to dial in. And then the last thing that you can set is your power level here. So 400 is at the far right max, and 0 is at the far left. So let's see. And once you see the glow, now it's automatically turned on the plasma. That's the glow of the plasma. You can dial the power in real time if you want to or need to. This light also indicates that the power to the plasma is active. I would preset the power and not change it, but it can be changed in real time. And notice here now, there's our plasma time that we set in our setup at 5 minutes, and it's just counting down, and it will automatically stop the plasma and cycle it off once the system reaches that set point of 5 minutes. All right, so here's the last 10 seconds of the etch. You can see it counting down. You can see what happens once it reaches its end. Okay. So it automatically shuts it off. You can see the plasma's off, and you can see now it's initiating this 10-second purge time. Air's coming back into the system, and now it reinitiates the vacuum and starts to pump that down. So what it did was it purged the system with air from the gas that was used to generate the plasma, and then it shut the valve, and now it pumped it back down, and then it says the plasma cycle is complete. But you can see the plasma is off. Your sample is still in there, but it's pumping. So if I were to try to open this, the door wouldn't open. And so now you need to go to the panel here, press up, back to commands menu, press enter, and instead of pressing enter at plasma, which turns the plasma on, I'm going to press over, and then I'm going to go over to cycle off, press enter, and now it's going to vent my chamber and permanently have the system off. And so you can see it's still counting down, but even now the pressure's low enough for me to remove my sample. Okay, so at this point you sort of do the reverse of the startup. So you pull your sample out, re-latch the system, you'll come around to the back, you'll power the system off. Come up here. It's good practice to turn these all the way off for the next user. Come back over to your tanks and work backwards. So tighten this one till it's all the way closed. Don't change this. And then righty-tighty to close the main valve to the system. If you had a second tank open, you would do the same thing on the second tank.